Do you guys ever get bored of having the same old omelette every morning when you're paleo? This recipe is a really easy one, and it's an awesome alternative for the morning omelette. It basically uses all the same ingredients as an omelette does, but it reinvents it. It uses it in an entirely different way, and it's so damn tasty. So let's get into the recipe. So this recipe is really easy, and you're only really using the same kind of ingredients that you would for a traditional omelette. The ingredients that you're going to need are 1 tomato, some yummy spinach or any kind of leafy greens, an egg or 2, depending on how hungry you are, some nice big mushrooms, at least this size, but preferably larger if you can get them, and some mincemeat. Now you can either buy, this is chicken mince, you can either buy fresh mincemeat from the butcher, or you can use, if you find any grain-free sausages, you can just peel the skin off of the sausages and use that. And that actually saves you a little bit of time because all the herbs and spices are already mixed in, and so you don't need to get quite as creative with that sort of thing. So let's get started.
Step 1. Fill up your saucepan with water.
Now I'm going to get my 2 nice big meaty mushrooms, and I'm just going to pull the central stem out. So all you need to do is just really gently kind of wiggle it back and forth, and it'll come out like that. I'm also going to remove a bit of this flesh off of the outside. And a lot of people really like this flesh, and if you do, leave it on, but I just kind of prefer it without. I think it's a bit softer without and a little bit more spongy, and it's really nice with this recipe when it's been taken out. So once your mushroom is ready, it should look like that. So now all that I've done is I've added my 2 completely peeled and de-stemmed mushrooms into this fry pan here. And now I'm just going to switch this one on to sort of a medium-high heat and leave it like that. And I'm going to prepare my mince next. So to my chicken mince, I've added some of my favourite Mediterranean herbs and spices. I've added coriander seeds, I've added thyme, I've added basil, as well as salt and pepper and a bit of oregano. You can basically add any kind of herbs and spices to this, anything that you feel is kind of like fresh, morning, breakfast. I think that curry powder works really well with the eggs as well. So yeah, whatever you reckon, just add it in and mix it all up. So basically now, all I'm doing is I've got a fork and I am mixing in my herbs and spices with my chicken mince. It's really easy. Just keep folding it and pressing on it with the fork like so until it's mixed in evenly. Really easy. So meanwhile, these mushrooms are starting to heat up on that pan over there. Basically, you'll know when they're getting close to being done because you'll start to see water on the tops of the mushrooms where I pulled out those stems. And that means that they basically grilled right the way through. You can obviously put them on a griller as well and do it in the reverse order, heating from top to bottom, but I find that this is an easier way to keep track of what's going on. If you find that there's any burning happening at the bottom of the mushrooms, then make sure you add some olive oil in as well, and that'll clear that up. Meanwhile, over here in this pot, I've just switched on the water so that it can start to boil, and I'm going to drop my egg into the boiling water. Now I'm doing soft-boiled eggs on top of my mushrooms for this recipe, but obviously you can use poached eggs as well. I just don't have eggs that I think are fresh enough that they're going to make a good poached egg. The thing about poached eggs is they only really work very well using the traditional method, at least, when you've got really fresh eggs, and I've had these eggs for a few days, so I'm not even going to bother trying. I'm just going to go with the boiled eggs. So what I've done here is I've separated my chicken mince into 2 sections, and now I'm going to add them to my fry pan as well. As you can see, I've used a really big fry pan, and that's to allow there to be enough space for me to put my chicken mince on as well. So let me grab the olive oil and I'll pop it on and I'll show you what it looks like. So here are my 2 little chicken patties on my fry pan, and all that I did to make them into chicken patties was just press them like this with a spatula. Really simple. And basically once I can see that they're cooked enough, I'll be able to flip them over. I'm also lifting the mushrooms a little bit just to make sure that they don't get stuck on the bottom and too much oil doesn't accumulate on top of them. So these look like they're about ready to flip, and my egg is on the boil. All stations go. Easy. Now when it's time to plate up, make sure that you get your spatula and you kind of lift the mushroom off of the pan and put it at an angle kind of like this, so that all of the oil drips off of it. When you add olive oil to this mix, when you're adding the chicken onto the plate, obviously this will suck up olive oil like a sponge. So in order to make it not be as greasy as that, make sure that you kind of tilt it and make sure that all of the olive oil comes off. The next thing to do is to flip the chickens. Now, basically they should look kind of like this on the outside, but as you can see in the middle, that's still a bit raw, so it needs a little bit longer. So I'm going to flip it again because I'm worried that this underside here is getting a little bit burnt and this bit on top is not. What you want to do is just carefully work your spatula underneath the pieces of chicken and flip them over. Now you've noticed that I've basically made a chicken patty here, and you don't need any flour or oats or any kind of binding agent to make a chicken patty stay together, provided you've got enough olive oil or coconut oil to cook it in. That said, I'm going to show you guys later how to make a chicken meatball, and that does involve coconut flour. So until that time, let's just go ahead and continue assuming that you do not need it for this sort of recipe. So now what I've done is I've put my 2 chicken patties right on top of my mushrooms, and I'm just going to cut up the tomatoes and the spinach and add some olive oil and lemon juice and a bit of salt and pepper, and that's going to be my side salad. My egg is boiling away nicely, so I'm going to switch that off now before it overcooks. My best advice that I can give you for peeling the egg when it's boiling hot is to just run it under cold water, sitting in a ladle or a potato scoop or something like that. That's the best way, and it'll cool down the outside of the egg without making the whole egg go cold, and then you'll be able to peel it really, really easily. And all I've done really is cut it in half and put it on top of my chicken and mushroom slices, and this is basically the best way to mix up that morning omelette without having to use different ingredients and going shopping and planning for it. This is basically what I would normally use in an omelette, but instead I've done it completely differently, and it's going to taste completely differently. Obviously you can use this as a lunch or a dinner as well, but I really like it as a breakfast. It's nice and fresh, you get a lot of protein, and it's a great morning pick-me-up. Alright then, I'm off to have my breakfast. See you guys in the next video. Bye.